Absolutely. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, J.R. Lee, and I'm back for another special episode of the Fly on the Wall show. And this is a very special episode because I'm joined by the beautiful Tasha of Gotta Stay. And Tasha, for the people who may not know who you are, what it is that you do, can you tell us a little about yourself and what it is that you do, please?
I sure can. Thank you so much for that introduction and for having me on your show. I'm excited to be here. For those of you who do not know me, I am Tasha K. We've got to stay. And
hold on. Tasha K. of Gotta Stay. I like the rhythm behind that. Woo,
yeah, my nephews are 8 and 10, and they help me come up with that. You know, they watch YouTube all the time, and they're like, PT, you gotta have a good, intro. So they help me put that together, and they're a huge part. They are a huge part of why I do what I do. So for those who don't know me, I'm originally from Chicago, and I'm from the south side of the city. The Wild Hundreds is what they call it, the dirty 130s. And if you know what that means, you know what that means. Like, I grew up in one of the most economically depressed counties in the United States, period. It's among the bottom 5 in terms of socioeconomic status. And I'm gonna tell you about this, not because, it's not about me, but I like to share where I'm from, because a lot of times people think that who they are and where they're from and the family that they have and the things that they don't have, they think that it is an obstacle to their success. Stop.
To go for a walk?
I love that.
Wash your hands.
That's a great way to stay accountable, though.
I Google everything. So, but people think that, the cards that they were dealt, define who they are. And that's just not the case. And, I am really big on accountability. And a lot of times people feel attacked by accountability. Because there are a lot of reasons for why people are where they are. And it's not that I don't acknowledge those reasons. It's not that, I don't acknowledge the institutional racism and the systematic oppression that Black people and people who look like me that we deal with. All of that stuff is there. However, we are not helpless. We are not hopeless. We're not powerless. There is always a way for us to overcome the circumstances that we're in. So I started creating financial plans when I was 10 years old. And when I was 10 years old, I'll tell you what that looked like. But I decided that I wanted a different life. And let me be clear, I loved growing up in the hood. I loved it. There's just some experiences that you can't get nowhere else. There's a certain type of community that you cannot get anywhere else, in my opinion. Like, when everybody is trying to get it out the mud, when nobody has anything, when everybody is sharing everything, it's a different type of environment. And it comes with this good and it comes with this bad. But I realized that I wanted to have access to more. And what sparked that was books. I would read almost anything that I could get my hands on. As soon as I learned how to read, I was reading everything. And what I learned was that there was this world that extended beyond the block that I grew up on and the block that I lived on that I never saw, that I never had access to. And I wanted to do the stuff that I was reading about in books. I wanted to just be able to go on a vacation, right? Or be able to walk into a house with my family that was mine. Like, owning a home with the second floor was like such a big thing to me as I'm reading about how people are living in these books. And so it sparked a desire in me. And I knew that there were 2 things that would be very vital to my ability to change my life. Number 1 was education. So I was a beast in school, like straight A student. And the second was financial freedom. I knew that I was going to have to master the flow of money and the language of money in order to change my life. So at 10 years old, I got a notebook, and on the notebook, it was just a notebook from the dollar store for $1. And I would write on the top of that notebook how much money I had. So let's say I had $1.50. I would write down $1.50. anytime I got money, I don't care if it was a penny, I would write down plus, 1 cent, plus 5 cents, plus $1. And I would just be like, Dad, can I have $1? If my aunts would come over, I'm like, can I have $1? Or I would literally find change on the sidewalk, and I would find change in the seat cushions of the couch. This was literally how I was getting money.
Right? And you would write it all down.
I would write it all down. And people would look at me, today when I tell people you need to budget, they're like, I don't have money to budget. And I'm like, my love, you're talking to the wrong person, because I literally started budgeting with pennies. And what happened was they started to grow, right? The money started to grow. And I started to see how quickly little things add up into big things. All of these things are going into the person that I am today, watching little pennies grow into, more money. And by the time I was 13, I had more money than anybody else in my house. And hold on.
Of course.
That's my mom calling. And so by the time I was 13, I was the richest person in my house. Now, granted, I didn't have any bills, but I also didn't have a job. And my dad was so shocked. He just didn't understand how I had so much money, hundreds of dollars, thousands at this point. And so he would say, like, my whole extended family, if they needed money, they would come to me at 13 years old.
Did we give a bank?
And I didn't even have a bank account, because nobody in my family had a bank account. My mom didn't have a bank account. My dad didn't have a bank account. And eventually a family friend was like, all right, we're going to take you to the bank and open you up a bank account. And so that's how I got started. I got started with pennies on the sidewalk, in the house, lying around. And I used that, right, I used focus, right? I used my focus and my attention to grow that. So I was 13, the richest person in my house. By the time I went to college, I had thousands of dollars in the bank. And my second year of college, I started to invest. And then soon after that, I purchased my first investment property, and it just continued to grow and expand. And then after that, I started my business, because I realized that people need to know that they can build wealth from scratch, and they don't need permission from anybody to do it. So I share all that story, because I want people to understand that it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter what you have. What matters is what is inside of you. And what are you willing to do to have the life that you want? So that's my introduction, and just a little bit about me.
No, but first of all, I just want to say, thank you so much for eloquently and beautifully, saying that story. That's powerful. And it's a testament to how far you've come, from early age. And, let's talk about it a little bit. You talked about growing up on the South Side of Chicago in one of the most impoverished neighborhoods, right? And so we know that, environment plays a big role in how we are shaped, right? How important is environment for you?
I ask myself this question a lot, because I see a lot of different outcomes, right? And what I think, the thing that I believe made the difference was reading, right? You hear people talk about the power of reading all the time. Yeah. But when you are growing up in a very specific environment, and you don't have access to a lot of different ways of being, and you're only seeing, one way of life. Yeah. Reading is your lifeline to understanding that other ways of being exist.
Absolutely.
And so environment is important, but what's in your mind is more important. And so I was putting something else in my mind, and I was filling my mind with possibility and opportunity. And that, I had to give myself a way to experience something different. And that, I believe, is, what is important when it comes to any environment. Doesn't matter, some environments are considered good and some environments are considered bad, but what matters is what is the life that you want to create. And then you have to put that life in your mind and let that be the environment that lives inside of you. And eventually it'll become the environment that is around you.
Eventually become your reality. Absolutely. And so at that young age, right, what type of books were you reading that kind of like, growing up, I'm pretty sure it wasn't, looking outside your window, it might have never been the best of situations. But when you were reading these books and it was taking you to these new places and giving you these new realities that you never heard about before, like what type of books were you reading that was giving you that feeling?
Well, first I want to say, when I looked out my window, there was a lot of great stuff. And I like to say that because people, when you talk about the hood, there is a very specific thing that people think about, but there's also good with the bad.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I like to put a spotlight on that, because a lot of that is our history and our heritage and our culture. Like, a lot of our communities are located there, and we don't want to diminish them, and because that's where I'm from. I never want to, I only want to, speak from a place of, lifting people up. So there's that. And then I was reading anything, but the thing I read the most was British literature, because that's what my library had, right? So I'm reading, but I wasn't reading any self-help books or anything like that. I was reading things that had my imagination running wild. Like, I was reading books about mouses that were having adventures, and I was reading about, Harry Potter. I was reading all these fantastical things. And I was reading books like The Good Earth, and I was reading like very complicated literature, and also like, science fiction and, fun stuff. And it was all types of things, but what it did was it got my imagination going.
And how important is the? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go. What's your question?
I was gonna say, how important is imagination, right? Being able to
it's everything.
see beyond. Yeah.
It's everything, because now you have the ability to think beyond where you are. You have the ability to think, and you have to understand. Like, if you grow up in the hood, or you grow up on the south side of Chicago, you might not think that having the life you want is possible, right? There's the possibilities might seem limited, but when you're reading all this fantastical stuff, then it's like, well, maybe switching neighborhoods isn't too far-fetched, actually. Or maybe I can go to college. Maybe I can go to college, and that's not like a weird thing, even though nobody in my neighborhood, I don't know anybody who's gone to college, but maybe I can. And that's what imagination makes available to people.
Absolutely. And so, when you were like 10 years old and you were, collecting like the dollars and picking up the pennies off the floor and writing it down in your notebook that you bought from the dollar store, being resourceful, doing all of these things, and your parents and your friends and whoever saw you doing these things, were they ever curious? Did they ever discourage you and say, why are you doing this? Like, did they ever like tell you to stop doing that?
I'm not the type of person at any point in my life where anybody would say, stop doing that. Like, if I see something that I want and I start doing it, like, and people, I inspired a lot of trust and confidence in people too. Yes. Even my parents, right? So when they see me doing something, they're very supportive and very encouraging, but they didn't want to do it. So I would try to get them to create a budget. I would try to get them to do these things, and they refused. So nobody was curious. That's such a good question, because nobody was interested in what I was doing. They were not trying to budget. Even when they saw the impact, right, nobody was interested in doing what I was doing, because it was so different from what everybody else was doing, right? And that's so weird for me to say at this point in my life, but at 10 years old, nobody I knew was budgeting. Nobody I knew was thinking about generational wealth. Nobody.
Do you think it's because of the fact that maybe they were just trying to get by? They had like that scarcity mindset, so they didn't really acknowledge what you were doing because they didn't understand it, because they were just worried about, I gotta pay rent, I gotta put food on the table. Do you think that may have been the reason why? Or
no, because we were very well taken care of. We never had to worry about food or a place to stay or anything like that, because of government subsidies, and those things like were really helpful to my family growing up. But what I think it was just the lack of imagination, lack of understanding what else is possible, not being engulfed in the world and all these different worlds that I had engulfed myself in. And that's why I think that that part is crucial, because when you know, as a human being, all you have access to is your five senses. That's what informs everything that you know, those five senses. And if and especially sight is so dominant, so what you see around you, that's the thing that you see day in, day out, day in, day out. It becomes such a solid reality for you that there's no reason for you to try to change it. But I didn't let that be my story, only because I loved reading. And I wonder, you know, what would have happened if I didn't love reading? And I have so many examples of what could have been possible. And so, yeah, nobody was interested in what I was doing.
Absolutely. And, you know, I just want to kind of piggyback off of that love for reading, because I can testify that my love for reading, writing, just exploring my creativity, I know that saved my life, because even to this day, there's things that I might tell my parents or some of my loved ones, and they can't even fathom that thought simply because their mind can't process that, right? And so, you know, it's so interesting that you were pretty much, you know, teaching yourself how to budget, how to have a financial planner, how to be accountable from such a
Yeah.
young age. So you really taught yourself the importance of like financial literacy and accountability. How important are those two things, you know, in life as well as business?
Financial literacy, if when you look at your finances, right?
Yeah,
There is no way to maintain wealth without, or attain wealth without financial literacy.
absolutely.
So if wealth is important to you, then that should let you know how important financial literacy is. But inside of my practice, inside of my business, we don't really focus on financial literacy. We focus on financial action. So, you know,
Action.
we operate inside of this idea that knowing doesn't make enough of a difference, right?
Mm,
Understanding something doesn't make enough of a difference. And I do not like to teach people to death. You know, I
yes.
believe that there's a certain type of learning, the most important learning, that comes through action. And so we take our clients through the process, right? We take them through the most important action areas and have them start building that up. And as they do, right? Because that's what I did. Once I was taking actions, I started learning lessons like, oh, I can't have my money and spend it too.
Right.
Oh, even small things grow into big things. And it was through the actions that I was having these revelations, and just telling somebody something, you know, they don't get it the same way. So financial literacy and financial action are imperative. In terms of accountability, I learned real young. I was 5 years old. I told you I decided education was going to be important. I was 5 years old and nobody would take me to school.
Wow.
Well, that's dramatic. My mom was always late taking me to school,
Yeah.
or I was missing a lot of days because,
Yeah.
you know, my mom was dealing with life, right? She was dealing with
Right.
whatever was going on in life for her. And that meant that I was missing days of school and I was falling behind. And one day I heard my teacher tell my mom, like, Tasha's missing too many days of school and she's gonna fall behind. I'm like, who gonna fall behind? Not me. I'm
Me.
not gonna fall. So what I started to do, I'm 5 years old, right? So I don't really understand this concept of an alarm clock. So I would stay up all night, right? Midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. I would stay up until 7 a.m. Then I would wake my mom up and I would get ready, and then she would take me to school. And I did that so frequently to make sure that I could get to school. Now, a lot of people are like, you shouldn't have had to do that. And that's so irrelevant to anything. Like, the
Yeah.
only thing that's
I
relevant is
did it though.
what would have happened in my
Like,
life,
yeah.
right? I would have probably blamed my mom and
Right.
it wouldn't have made any difference at all. This is what accountability is. It's like, yes, things probably should happen a different way. Things
Right.
probably aren't happening the way that you want them to be, but you are the only one that has the power to create your life, and nobody else, even when they should be doing things and even when they're not doing things, even though, you know, there might be things against us,
Of course.
that, you know, is irrelevant to our accountability to create the lives that we want for ourselves.
Absolutely. It's so easy to make excuses, right? And so, how, what you and your company got to stay, right? How do you guys help individuals take action right? You know, it's so easy to make excuses and to, like you said, the victim blame or blame the cards that we were, the hands that we were dealt. How does someone take action? Like, what are some steps that someone can take? Like, if I want to build, you know, financial wealth or just freedom for myself and my family, what are some steps that I can take today to help me do so? To take
So,
action, actually.
yeah, so in Goddess Day, our methodology is built on neuroscience and planning and law of attraction. So my background is in psychology, education with the concentration in neuroscience.
I'm not
So
surprised.
I really understand, and I did that because I was so interested in understanding how people get different outcomes in the same environment. It
Mm,
was mind blowing to me. And growing up, I would have people ask me, I would go to conferences and people wanted to know, how are you the exception? And I wanted to know too, how am I the exception? And so I studied education and I studied psychology and I studied neuroscience and I understand how the brain works and I use that in my business. So what I understand is that the human brain it's not built for long-term planning, right? So you have your amygdala and then you have your frontal cortex. And the amygdala is that primal part of your brain and it wants what it wants now. And the frontal cortex or the prefrontal cortex is like at the front of your brain and it's where you start making decisions, right?
right.
But the thing is, the amygdala kicks in like that. The prefrontal cortex, it takes a minute, right? It takes some time to kick in. So by the time it kicks in, you've already done the thing that went against your budget. You've already done the thing that went against your diet, and now you regret it because your prefrontal cortex is there telling you, I shouldn't have done that. I
Right.
had a plan, but I didn't stick to it. So what I understand is that there isn't enough discipline in the world to outrun your evolutionary wiring. There is not enough discipline in the world for that. You're going to mess up. And so we create financial systems that help our clients have a shot at being able to achieve financial freedom, being able to stick to their budget. And the beautiful thing about it is that you don't have to be perfect with your budget. What if you just stuck to your budget 50% of the time? That would change your life. What if you stuck to your budget 80% of the time? That will put you in the realm of the life that you actually want. And I think of it like, for me, working out and dieting is like, there is just no world in which I'm going to stick to my diet 100% of the time. It's not going to happen, but I can do it 80% of the time, right? I could probably start off at 50% of the time and work my way up to 80% of the time. And what really helps our clients get into that, frame of mind, and this is like where I spent a lot of time, looking at how do you shift? How do you get into the space where you actually want to shift your mindset? Because if you do not shift your mindset, nothing has a chance at changing in your life. And I like to look at it like this, like if you put on a pair of yellow tinted glasses, right?
Right.
It is impossible for you to see anything other than things that are yellow tinted, even
Right.
if you wanted to. It is impossible. You can only see things that are yellow tinted because that's the perspective you have. Those are the glasses that you have on. And if you want a new perspective, you have to take off those glasses. So mindset is the same way. So we help our clients, number one, get into the space where they're ready to shift their mindset so that they can create a new financial future. Because you have to know who you are right now is going to create a predictable outcome. Who you are is going to create a predictable financial life. And so we have to shift our clients into a different way of being before we can give them a new financial outcome. So consistently,
Yeah.
because even once you create that budget, what happened? You create the budget and you might stick to it for a little bit, but then eventually you just gonna recalculate like a GPS right back to your internal value system. You're just gonna recalculate right back to that until you shift it. So that's the first thing that we do. And it's really, it's a 4-month process that we take our clients through. And it would be a lot to get into right now. So
Of
I think
course. Of course.
I'm gonna leave it at, we start off with the mindset. And then we work on creating a financial system that helps our clients increase their net worth consistently and reliably. And so we're looking at savings, we're looking at investments, we're looking at budgets, we're looking at credit, and we're not looking at anything in a silo. We're looking at all of these things holistically so that we can maximize your opportunity to increase your net worth.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And, you know, I know you said a little bit early on that, you know, you have a focus with a law of attraction as well. So when we think of law of attraction, you know, we may think of, you know, The Secret and, you know, these different things. I had a guest from The Secret on my show a few months ago, Marie Diamond, and she talked about like the importance of like, you know, your environment and things like that. You know, environment is powerful when it comes to attracting the life that you want to live and creating, you know, abundance in your life. You know, but we also talked about like language and the importance of your words. How important are your words when it comes to attracting the life that you want to create?
One of the things that we have our clients do is create affirmations.
Yes.
And this is why I think, you know, this is how I leverage some of the law of attraction rituals and stuff like that. The reason that language is so important is because it helps you to create neural pathways, right? So if you think about neuro-linguistic programming, the words that you speak help to create pathways in your brain, right? And what you want to do is start creating pathways of belief. This is what it is. This is what shifting your mindset is, right? And people act like, you know, law of attraction is just such woo-woo stuff. Like, this is just, for me, it's just basic neuroscience, right? Neurons that fire together, wire together. And when you give language to the life that you want to create, you start helping those neural pathways form, right? And so I love the story of the little engine that could, because what he kept saying was, I think I can.
Yes.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And you got to know, like, when you have nothing, right? You have no basis for the life that you want, except you just know that you want to create it, but you don't know how. The best thing you can say sometimes is just, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And then those neurons are starting to fire and they're starting to wire. And guess what? Solutions that were not possible before, they actually become possible now because of the wiring that you've made available in your brain through your language. It's amazing and insane. And this is why the name of my business has got to stay, because you have the power to create the life that you want. And that power is in your tongue, and that power is in your thoughts, and that power is in your focus. It's really exciting stuff.
No, I see, this is why I had to have you on the show, right? Because, you know, for people who may not know, I recently just met you like last month. You know, shout out to my guy, Todd. You know, I was a fly on the wall, you know, during one of your interviews. And it was that energy and that conviction, that tenacity, and that passion that exuded from your entire being. I was like, oh, nah, I gotta have her on my show. I gotta have you on my show, man. And, you know, because energy is so important, right? Energy is so important. That conviction when you speak is so important. It's like, I know you mean everything that you say, right? And that's so important, man. I could just see you glowing through the screen. I'm not even in the room with you, and I'm like, yo, I feel charged up, right? That's so cool, man. And gotta stay. Like, you kind of broke down what it means, but like, where did you get that name from? Like, is it come from God itself, like God within? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so, you know, it's partly from the word namaste, right?
Namaste. Okay.
And I was just thinking, I don't even know how it came to me, but it was part of that. And it's like, yeah, goddess say, right? I was thinking about goddess energy.
Goddess
energy, right? And when I'm creating my life, right, I imagine myself at the center of my life, just sitting down, creating with my thoughts. Yes. That's what goddess energy is to me. And the word goddess day was just like, I want to acknowledge the God or the goddess, the creation energy in you, right? Like, you have the power to create. That is God energy. And that God energy, it flows through you. And so I don't want to hear your complaints about what this life has thrown at you or why you can't create the financial future that you want. It is irrelevant in this space where you are the creator. It is irrelevant. And so, yeah, it's like, I I am acknowledging the God energy that flows through you, that gives you an ability to create the life that you want. No excuses, only accountability.
Wow, that's amazing, right? And so, the name of my brand is Food for Thought, right? Food for Thought. I want to provide nourishment to your mind, to your body, and to your soul, right? And the purpose is that I want people to think and create, because I believe that we are all creators. We're put on this world to create. And so how important is it to know that you are the creator of your life? You are the creator of your reality. How important is that?
I think it's important because when you don't understand that, you feel like a victim to everything. Right. And sometimes, I think this type of conversation can be challenging and triggering for people, because when things happen to you, you feel justified in being a victim. And I don't want to take that away from anybody who
Of
has been
course.
harmed, or who have gone through an experience where they have been victimized.
Of course.
However, on the other side of that is just, it's like when you're looking at, but what outcome do you want, right?
Yeah.
What is the outcome that you want, right? So there are some people who they aren't ready for that next movement, right? They haven't moved through that space where they're tired of being at the effect of their environment, and I understand why, because their environment is affecting them. And that is true. But, sometimes I think of that quote, like, what is it? Speak truth to power or something like that. And it's like, if it's not giving you power, what is the point of the truth? If it's not empowering you, then let it go and find a narrative that will empower you. And I believe that accountability and creation energy is a narrative that empowers people, because it says, if you got yourself to where you are now, you can get yourself to where you want to be. And
Wow.
so I think it's so important that people understand that, or else they just become at the effect of their circumstances. Life starts to happen to them. And
Not for them.
life is exactly, it's like life is happening through you, right? Life is happening for you. Life is happening because of you. And it's like, take back that agency. And when you do, it brings this mental clarity where you feel like you can take on the world. And don't get caught up in, is this true? Just start from, I think I can, and go from there.
Wow, that's powerful. And Tasha, what type of, I know you have, your system that you put your clients through, like your funnel and everything. What type of offerings that you have that someone who wants to get started can take advantage of right now today?
Yeah, so our flagship program is called the Wealth Society, right? And so that's our 4-month financial process where we take our clients through and help them build a system that increases their net worth by a minimum of $15,000, upwards of $150,000 a year. And that's for clients who are really ready to change their financial life forever, and have the resources to do so. People who are, I like to call them financial dreamers, right? Which is where I started. You just got to hope and a dream and some pennies. I have a product. So I have the budget binder, and it's a 43-page document. And I'll send it over to you, and I'll send over a discount code for your listeners.
Oh
But it's
man,
a
amazing.
43-page document that helps you organize all of your finances from beginning to end. I have the stock market mastery course for beginners. So if you want to understand how to invest in the stock market, starting from nothing, starting from scratch, this is perfect for you. And what I love about my teachings is, I don't just tell you, I show you. So you actually get to see me walk through helping a client of mine invest for the very first time. So you see them go through the process of, I don't even know what investing is, to building an investment portfolio. And so you don't have to wonder about how to do it. You'll have the knowledge, but then you'll also have the know-how. So those are two of, I also have my Flourish ebook. So I created this for people who, they aren't quite in the mental space yet where they feel like anything is possible for their lives. They might feel depressed. They might feel stuck. They might feel like a victim, because life has been happening, right? The Flourish ebook is designed to help you get to that next step. It is incredible. It comes with the 7-day guided money meditation, a checklist. It's a mini ebook. I highly recommend that. So Flourish for Mindset, the Budget Binder for Budgeting, and the Stock Market Master Course for Investing.
Wow. And where can they find that, by the way?
You can find it on my website. If I'll send you the links to all of those things if you put them in the notes, but all of those things you can find on my website, and definitely make sure you come and hang out with me. You can follow me on Twitter at Goddess State HQ and on Instagram as well. Yeah, let's just connect. I definitely, I love being in community with people, and I love what's possible in community with people. And that's one thing I love about you. You seem like you're so great at building connections, and
thank you.
I admire that quality.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think that's one of my gifts. I definitely think that's one.
Too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And, Tasha, one of the questions that I like to ask all of my guests when they come on this show is their definition of success, right? Success, it can vary depending on where you are in your life. With the limited imagination, success may be limited for you. It doesn't have to be monetary, though. It can just be freedom, happiness, peace of mind. What is Tasha's definition of success?
My definition of success is freedom first and foremost.
Absolutely.
And I was just saying that the other day. And some people love the money and the flashy stuff, and that's not really my vibe. What I think of as, success is knowing who you are and being able to have the things that light you up. So Marie Kondo has this, method where she talks about what sparks joy.
Yes.
And I like for people to think about that, because a lot of times we're so numb to ourselves that we don't even know what sparks joy. So success for me is knowing what sparks joy and being able to luxuriate in those things. And travel, right? I love being able to travel. But in terms of physical things, I think one thing that'll be a sign of success for me is when I can, live on top of a mountain and watch the ocean. That'll be success.
It's such because I'm the type of person, I love water, right? I just love being able to, fun fact, I'm Jamaican. I still don't know how to swim. I'm from Florida. I don't even know how to swim, but it's just something, I know, my environment, right? And just excuses, right? But it's just something different about just sitting in front of a body of water, just relaxing and just feeling like just that energy, because it's at the waves, like naturally we're connected to water because of just that wave-like energy, that movement. But it's something different about, it's something tranquil and just peaceful about water, right? And so, before we go, I know you mentioned, just things that bring you joy. What are some things that bring you joy?
I love it. I love rainy days.
Rainy days.
Right? I love rainy days. I love sunny days. I love bright yellow sunny days. I love honeydew and cantaloupe. When I'm eating honeydew and cantaloupe, I'm just like, first of all, I'm a queen, okay? And watermelon. And I love talking to my niece and my nephews. I love when my family is at peace and happy. I love having an environment where, like, it smells good, it looks good. I love the feeling of being able to luxuriate. Those are just some of the things that bring me joy.
Nice. Are you like a nature person? You like being in nature?
I do. I didn't know I was a nature person, and my dad's like, first of all, you're white. Because he's not used to that.
Right.
From Chicago, concrete jungle. But then I come to Atlanta and I be kayaking, I be hiking, I be jumping off. I'll go to all the waterfalls. I mean,
all the parks. I love Piedmont Park. It's my happy place.
The parks in Atlanta are like second to none. And
God.
Piedmont Park only is like barely holds a candle to what Atlanta has to offer. Piedmont Park is great, but Atlanta has some of the best parks that I've ever seen, and they are so plentiful. And not to mention, there's so much nature around Georgia. There's the Georgia mountains. There are probably 3 waterfalls within 2 hours of Atlanta. There's so
I'm gonna have
many
to have you send me those.
rivers. Dude, I have a list. So
Yes, please send me
I
those,
do lots of
please.
hiking. But I don't, it's funny, I don't think of myself like a nature girl. What I think of myself as, I love to see the world.
The
Right?
world.
Like, this is creation. This is creation. And I just love to be in it, all up in it, seeing it. I get my tent. I have my own kayak. I get my tent. I'll go out there, just rest and relax for the day. If I'm like really stressed out, I might even go, charge up my laptop, take my tent, and just go work in my tent for the day.
Nah, that sounds amazing. Wow. But Tasha, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time and the energy to come on this show and do this for me. It was a lot of fun. Your energy is amazing. Your tenacity, it's everything about you. It just radiates through you, right? And so I just want to say thank you so much for being a special guest today for the Fly on the Wall show.
It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I hope that you and your listeners get something from this. I hope I wasn't too verbose, because I'm known to talk a lot.
But that's what it's important. Communication is the epitome of life itself, right? Being able to communicate. That's what we were put here on this earth to do, right? So
exactly. I appreciate being here so much. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Will do.
Thank you.